Super Regional Series Futures episode on the College Baseball Experience of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost, the bank account that is built for bettors. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet with the promo code SGPN and get a free Refs Are Terrorists free t-shirt. Claim your shirt at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/refs. We're also brought to you by Naira Bets. Get your $25 free bet for the Belmont by going over to nyrabets.com/SGPN25. Promo code SGPN25. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into a brand new episode of the College Baseball Experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside Johnny Venezia of Breaking Bet. Johnny, a couple of days off. I've personally been able to catch up on sleep. How have you been doing during the time off?
Trying to process everything that happened. The weekend was nuts. It was jam-packed with action and upsets and heartbreak. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I was just thinking, this has been probably, if not definitely, the most chaotic regional that we've had, at least since I started watching college baseball. And college baseball, man, it is a sport that is just built on chaos, especially this time of year. But 2025 has been to a different level so far.
Yeah, man. And we had, I think, 5 2 seeds, 1 4 seeds. Did we have any 3 seeds in advance? But there was on Friday the action of all the 4 seeds giving 1 seeds that threw off real games. I absolutely loved it. There was not really a talent / skill gap this year at all in a lot of these regionals. There was a lot of close games between the 1s and 4s, the 2s and 4s, and whatnot. We even saw, honestly, it should be talked about more, one of the biggest upsets in the sport in Little Rock going into Alex Box Stadium and taking down LSU. Unbelievable that they were able to pull that off. I became a big fan of the coach after their 7-0 loss on Friday night, tweeted out that clip of his presser, but didn't know that they were going to pull that off in the ensuing days. So that was awesome to see. Johnny, we've got a quick show planned for the people today. We're going to be giving out some super regional picks and possibly some futures here as well. I mean, all the time, I do it, and I know others do it as well. Start on the left side of the bracket at the top. Today, let's start on the right side of the bracket. These are the Saturday series, Saturday, Sunday, Monday series. Let's jump over to Los Angeles, the super regional here that's going to be played between the UCLA Bruins, who's going to be the home team for Game 1 and Game 3, and then UTSA, the Road Runners, are the road team for Game 1 and 3, home team Game 2. UTSA is plus 145. UCLA is minus 180. Johnny, set the table on what your thoughts are entering this series, and are the Roadrunners going to be able to pull off the upset in Los Angeles that the Anteaters, the Sun Devils, and the Bulldogs of Fresno State couldn't be able to do?
UTSA, man, I've got to give a ton of credit to Coach Pat Hallmark. Hell of a coach. He was able to do something very special with his ball club this year. The AAC has been typically run by ECU for quite a long time. And, you know, you felt maybe like Tulane had a shot this year coming in, and UTSA, it really wasn't a program that was on a lot of people's radars. It wasn't a team that I really expected much of this year, but you got to give them credit. They not only are able to advance here, but they go down into Texas, in-state rival, against a team that has unlimited resources in all of its blue-bloodedness, and they were able to get it done multiple times. And I think the fact is UTSA they're a live dog here. And I wouldn't say they're like elite pitching staff, but they have 3 solid arms in a weekend rotation. And it's nothing to say we're like, yeah, they have a dominant ace or anything like that, but it's just 3 guys that you can throw out there that are going to give you a chance to win. They have a really good closer in Robert Orlowski. They have a lineup that is deep, and I don't know if there's too many guys that truly stand out. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mason Lytle is that's their big bat, and he's really good. But it's really an offense that's built off depth, where each guy can just move the line, and that kind of consistency and that kind of depth usually plays up in a format like this. Super Regionals is fantastic, Noah. I'm not going to say it's easy by any stretch, because it's probably the most pressure-packed moment of the tournament because a lot of teams just want to get to Omaha. The ultimate goal is to win, but getting there is something special. This is, though, the easiest in terms of the format because it's going back to a regular weekend series. So now teams can do what they would normally do in a weekend series. I like UTSA because I can't get over their relentlessness. And UCLA, I still have questions about them. I think they played a great series this past weekend, but they don't have a dominant ace. They have just a handful of solid pitchers. And I think in a similar sense of UTSA, it's just a handful of guys that can go out there and give your team a chance to win. Wylam Moss out of the pen is my favorite of this pitching staff. But their offense is really predicated on three players throughout the whole season as a large sample size. It's AJ Salgado, Malave Lavu, and Rock Chalowski, who could be the number one pick next year. But if Rock Chalowski doesn't have a good series, it's a problem for the UCLA offense. So I think with a little bit more depth, UTSA getting the plus money is my initial look here. How about you?
So we're going to disagree off the top of the show, which isn't a bad thing. It's a pretty close call, I would say. The thing that does it for me in favor of UCLA and why I'm going to pick the Bruins is I think that their staff's just a little bit deeper. Sure, there's not an ace, and that was one big handicap for me and why I didn't pick them to win their regional. But I'm not sure that UTSA has that guy that they have full faith in going out there and winning them a game in game one. I don't see that from UTSA either. What I will say is I think that UTSA probably goes Zach Royce, Braylon Owens game 2 instead of Connor Miles game 2. Miles started that second game against Texas, kind of got knocked around in the first 3 innings, and Braylon Owens came in the final 4 or 5 and completely shut down the Longhorns. I think that you want that guy out there on the mound in game 2. You don't want to face, UCLA in a series and lose in the first 2 games and not have thrown Owens, who's kind of come down the stretch here as one of your best arms with the, one of the top strikeout ratios on your team. So I think that's one thing to expect here. Michael Barnett, Landon Stump, and then UCLA's got to figure out that game 3 guy, of course, but their bullpen has been pretty solid this season. It entered the regionals as a top 16 unit in this field. UTSA was bottom half in the field of 64 this year. And when I was watching it this weekend, Ian May looked outstanding. That was a lefty that had kind of been working as an opener for a lot of the year. He looked good, and the offense was able to dictate a lot of game scripts. They were able to build leads early. When you're looking at possible big-time performers, you said that Rock Chalowski needs to have a big series for the Bruins. There was a guy that was left off of the Golden Spikes finalists award list today, and that was Rock Chalowski, and I think he's going to go out there pretty motivated and make a statement here. So I'm going to go UCLA. Am I betting this? Currently on DraftKings, it's minus 180. I want none of that. I encourage everybody to shop around. I'll be naming the DraftKings prices for today. Just my loyalty to that book because they've been there for 4 years. First originators, usually most fair prices as well. So I encourage you shop around. There's obviously going to be more advantages on some other teams than DraftKings, but UCLA is my pick. Anything else that you want to add on the series before we move on, Johnny?
I'd be intrigued to see how UCLA handles this weekend. I don't remember the last time UCLA made it this far. It's been a minute. They got bounced in 22, which I believe is the last time they made the field of 64 in the Florida State region. But listen, man, I understand because UCLA's got some good players. I just think in the pitching staff they don't really have that star. I think Wylam Moss is developing into that. And I just feel like the hitting is so focused on 3 players, and the top players gotta set the tone for them because it can run into some issues. And listen, let's be honest. Like Texas's offense is definitely not as good as a lot of people, including myself, expected it to be. But what they did going on the road in Austin, which is a much more hostile environment, was really impressive. because Texas has some first rounders in their lineup. So, I completely understand what you're saying. And I think also price-wise, it makes sense to bet UTSA. I mean, there might be better ways to monetize this, like picking where you might think UTSA's got the best chance, because chances are they're going to be in this situation where you're going to be getting them around plus 130 or even bigger for the entire weekend. I mean, first game, they're plus 144. So I think there's going to be some opportunities to bet UTSA. I think there is. Thank you, Cody. I think there is a good chance that UTSA is going to get one of the first two games and at least get this thing to go 3.
Yeah, the game that I would be I would circle it as, okay, I might entertain a Roadrunners bet would be game 2 if it's Owens against Landon Stump. That would be the game that I kind of target a Roadrunners pick there and possible bet. Next up, I mean, not sure who, if any, predicted this to be a super regional matchup, but we're going to head down to Durham, where Jack Coombs is going to host. I'm slightly surprised, but also I know that they've been working to get that facility up and going and good to go to host in regionals and super regionals in the NCAA tournament. Duke is minus 380 here, which is really interesting to me. Murray State's plus 290. I want to potentially like set the table here early before I hand it off to you, Johnny. Duke hosting is certainly a storyline, because this is the first time ever on campus that they're hosting an event like this. It is I don't want to call it a distraction, but there is extra effort into putting on the regional, and you're bringing in a lot of guests from the NCAA and from also another team, and you're trying to make this, I don't know how to
hospitable.
Yeah, sure. You're trying to put on a good show, I guess, is my best try and explain what's going to happen here, because it's not a lot of the pressure isn't even on the field. There's pressure for a lot of these hosts off the field and how they're supposed to and have to deliver in events like these. When the schedule came out, I was really disappointed that Saturday Duke and North Carolina are playing at the same damn time. I was hoping to double dip and do a super regional down there. As of now, I still don't even know where I'm going. Okay, all of the off-field stuff out of the way now. So Duke only has 2 healthy right-handed arms on their pitching staff right now. Murray State against right-handed pitching, that's 326 with a 954 OPS. Against left-handed pitching, it's 285 with a 915 OPS. So there's a noticeable gap there, and Ole Miss is trying to exploit it. They started in the regional final in both games. They started left-handed pitchers against Murray State. There's like 5 or 6 left-handed hitters in the Racers lineup. It really didn't affect them. I mean, watching that series, Murray State was putting up 8+ runs in all 4 games that they played. And the best pitchers that they saw outside of Hunter Elliott, they were able to tag of Ole Miss, like the bullpen arms of Mason Morris and Mason Morris in game 1 for sure. But even hit Riley Maddox really well early. And then Holtz in game 6 of the regional, who started, didn't really make it out of the 3rd inning. It was very impressive. I was very impressed by the Murray State Racers offense. I'm not sure that the lefty thing I'm really going to be hung over on, and that's going to be deciding my pick here. I think that it ultimately comes down to, I think Duke's patience really might help them. They're like top 5 in the country in walks, and they hit the mistake. And I think that Duke's going to be able to do that. Like Nick Shuddy struggled with walks, especially in that second appearance. But the first appearance, he really relied on his off speed to get swings and misses. I'm not so sure that that's going to play against Duke. And then Silva as well, their game 2 starter, is also kind of a side armor who relies on more stuff than strike throwing, and I just think that Duke's offense might be able to affect that a little bit. So I don't know if Murray State's starting pitching is going to be as good. But if we're talking about a 380 price on Duke, Murray State has to be the pick on a plus 290 if you're betting this. And if there was a series price of like how many games this thing goes, I would pick 3. But we don't have that right now, and that's kind of disappointing. We've had that pretty much every single year that I've done this. Johnny, your thoughts on the Duke Murray State series?
Who would have thought that this is going to be the super regional? I mean, this is what happens. I mean, some of the times the frustrating thing is like when you're looking in the futures market throughout the year, it's like, well, this team is really not good enough to make the run. But sometimes you win a weekend and you get a favorable draw. Sometimes the stars align for you, and we've seen it with a lot of teams. Saw it with Louisville, saw it with Miami, we saw it with Murray State, Arizona. We've seen the stars align for a handful of teams that, quite frankly, I would have never touched to win the College World Series because they all had glaring issues, and several of them. But here we are. Murray State will not die. They were incredible in one of the tougher regions last weekend. They had to beat Georgia Tech, and they had to beat Ole Miss. That's not an easy task. I think ultimately Duke played a very good series. I think that first game against Oklahoma State probably goes a lot differently if Josh Holliday doesn't pitch off and he goes Harrison Bodendorf game 1. And
I'm not sure that was a decision, though. Bodendorf went to the hospital.
Yeah. Well, okay, fine. If Bodendorf pitches, I think it's a little bit different, regardless of how he got sick and how bad it was.
Yeah.
I also think, Oklahoma State, some bad managerial decisions helped Duke get to the super regionals, at least preventing them from playing the last game because the Cowboys had that one in hand. And, listen, Duke's had a weird year where they've kind of come on strong in the second half. And sixth year senior Ben Miller has been awesome this year. 20 homers. I mean, the fucking modern day Van Wilder could have gotten a nursing degree at this point with, the amount of years he's had in school. Duke is a tough team. And we've kind of seen this from them, but price, you got to go Murray State, man. I mean, This is going to be a situation again where Murray State's got to score because their pitching has just been very shaky. They have some talented arms, but it hasn't really translated. You saw what was happening towards the end of the weekend with them. They were just giving up a ton of runs. They had to score 8+ to have a chance to win. A lot of these games ended up scoring 20 runs or more. I think for the price, it's worth it to take a chance on Murray State in the 3-1 territory. I think you have to. I don't think Duke is by far that much better. I think they've just really been carried by Ben Miller, and they've gotten some big swings from AJ Gracia. Some of their pitchers have come up in big moments. But Murray State, with the price, and the fact is their offense can score, and Duke doesn't have any super talented pitchers, any guys that you're going to be like, all right, I'm afraid to face him. I mean, if you look at their staff, Owen Proshka's got a 4.83 ERA. Their best pitcher has been Reed Easterly, sort of like that Charlie Bielenson role where he's coming in the hybrid situations. He's coming in late in the games to kind of lock it down. But if you go further down the board, they don't really have many reliable arms that have performed that well this year. So Murray State should be able to score. And if you can score, I think they're going to have a chance because they have enough pitching in terms of talent that if they were able to put it together for a weekend, there's a good opportunity for them to upset. But I think in lieu of playing the series price, what I'm going to end up doing, so I don't have the commitment for a weekend, I think it's worth it to bet them game 1 and 2 as well. Because if they're going to be plus 300 or close to for 2 games, you just got to win 1 game and you're going to get your money back. And you don't have to worry about them winning 2.
Yeah.
So Murray State, betting them pretty much on the money line for games 1 and 2, which if they were going to win the series, they have to win at least one of those. That's the move.
Yeah.
Because like I said, if you win 1 and they're plus 300, you're coming away with a profit. So that's honestly the better way to approach this series. But in terms of actually picking a winner, God damn it, dude. I'm going to go with Murray State, man. I like seeing it. I mean, I really do. I picked Ole Miss in that region to come out, and not just for a hedge, but just because I thought the price didn't make any sense in the last game. I went Murray State.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just they have this like aura about them. It's very Oral Roberts-esque, where they're coming up with the big hit or the big out, or they just have this infectious energy as a team that hasn't had a lot of college baseball success in their program's history. And while they're here, they want to make the most of it. So in what is a winnable super regional, let's go Murray State, man. The Racers. Shout out to those boys because they've been playing really good baseball.
And what you talk about too is it's probably more advantageous to pick your spots in this series rather than be committed for the entire weekend. Murray State, in that Game 7 against Ole Miss, they threw both their number 2 starting pitcher and then their number 1 starting pitcher and then their closer. Silva went something like 40 pitches, and then I think Shuddy went like 50 pitches. It'll be interesting to see who they give the nod to that first game. That's why I don't even know if I'm ready to commit to I like Murray State in Game 1. Owen Provis has been throwing the ball really well lately. So I think I'm more or less likely to fade my guy Kyle Johnson coming off of his best start of the year. I don't know if he'll be able to keep that thing consistent. I mentioned it for Murray State, the bad, like not the bad splits, but the noticeable split negatively towards left-handed pitching, and Duke, they're all lefties on the bump. Murray State's got a lot of right-handed pitching, and Duke's lineup is noticeably not as great against right-handed pitching, only hitting 283 with a 926 OPS, and their lineup against left-handed pitching is batting 310 with a 982. So a little bit of a split there that also goes in favor of Murray State. So it should be an excellent series. And Chinook is saying, heard we're talking about seeds. Figured we'd stop by. Of course, could be a different seed. No, honestly, my favorite seed. Got the bag over here.
That's a good tweet. I got to say something else. One more thing about this.
Shoot.
There's no pressure on Murray State.
No,
they're playing loose. They're having fun. They're not expected to win. They weren't even expected to be here. They were expected to get rolled in a regional that had Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, and Western Kentucky. And they're here. They're loose. All the pressure is on Duke because, like you said, it's not just up to them to get it done on the field, but now they have to worry about all the accommodations and, getting everything set up, and that adds a little bit more pressure. And even though Duke has some older guys, I think with, for instance, guys like Ben Miller, like chances are Ben Miller is not going to be playing at the next level. The guys who are in school at 25 aren't playing pro baseball, or if they do, they're not going to go very far. Like, this is it. This is probably the highlight or last highlight of their baseball career. So all the pressure is on them. Murray State's just going to be playing like how they've played, down the stretch. Loose, having fun. It's house money, kid.
Yeah. It's not even down the stretch either. I mean, they've won the regular season in the Murray Valley. They won the Murray Valley tournament, and they kept it rolling. They didn't stop hitting the entire weekend down in Oxford. Yeah. Very, very impressive. Before we get to that next series, I want to talk to you guys about how the Stanley Cup final is here, in the Hockey Gambling Podcast is giving away an NHL jersey of your choice and a $200 SGPN gift card. Enter for free at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Stanley Cup in order to attempt to win. Also, SGPN is partnered up with Edge Boost. It is the first ever bank account that is built for bettors, ensuring that all gambling transactions are approved. There are no usage fees, no minimums. You can earn cashback rewards today and get 100% approval for all betting deposits. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet with the promo code SGPN. And if you sign up this week, you will get a free Refs Are Terrorists t-shirt. Go over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/refs to claim your free shirt. And Underdog Fantasy is going long for the NBA Finals with their extender bonus. Hop in during Game 1 on their pick'em platform, and the longer that the series goes, the bigger that the bonus will get. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. and bet the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga with Naira Bets. Sign up today with promo code SGPN25 and get $25 in free bets plus a $200 deposit match bonus. Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just getting started, Naira Bets makes it easy to jump in on the action. The exclusive offer is just for the Belmont Stakes, so don't wait. Join in now and claim your free $25 Belmont bet today at nairabets.com/SGPN25. And we are back here on the College Baseball Experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside Johnny Venezia, doing our super regional picks and futures preview. We're going along down the right side of the bracket here, and that takes us to LSU hosting West Virginia. The Mountaineers swept through the Clemson Regional. Offensive persistence was able to get them through as, they were down 5 runs to Kentucky in the 6th inning. They come back, they tie it up. Then they fall down again by 4 runs. They come back, they score 6 in the 8th to get that thing done. The West Virginia Mountaineers are now heading down to Baton Rouge, where LSU had their hands full against one of the worst teams in the field of 64 coming into regional weekend. LSU is minus 400 against West Virginia here at plus 300. Johnny, I'll let you begin here, but my first question is, how do you see this series playing out? Who's going to throw game 1 for LSU? They had to use Anthony Ianson in relief in game 7 against Little Rock. So how is this series going to get dictated? Is it going to be Cade Anderson game 1? And do you see Ianson coming back game 2? Is that how? Because that's kind of how I think it could go.
You know what's so great about having the best 1-2 punch in all of college baseball? It doesn't matter who you throw, because there's only a couple of arms that are better than Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson in the year of our Lord 2025. I think ultimately they're going to go back to their normal routine and go with Cade Anderson here in this game, especially because it's going to be regular rest for him since he threw last Saturday. I mean, dude, it's just let's take away from the fact that LSU was one of my 3 preseason teams to win it all, right? Let's remove that from the equation and look at this just straight up on the series of this weekend. The pitching for this LSU team has come through all year. I mean, it's just been unbelievable. Cade Anderson, the next Sugar Shane McClanahan, has been awesome. He's had a few bad starts. I mean, the home run problem is a little bit of an issue. Anthony Ianson, I don't think you can really give me 2 better pitchers than Anthony Ianson over the last 6 weeks. I mean, I said it coming into the tournament that I think Ianson is going to be one of the biggest draft risers come draft day. I could see, like, he wasn't being mocked as a first rounder. I still don't even think I've seen him mocked as a first rounder. I haven't checked in a few days.
I think he's climbed up. Yeah.
Well, so that's kind of leaning against my point. Like, this is not a guy that was regarded as a first rounder coming into his tenure at LSU. And honestly, it really hasn't even picked up steam until maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But this is kind of getting into that point where an arm like his is going to see that Cade Horton-esque type of rise. Not saying Ianson is Cade Horton, but the kind of draft rise where Cade Horton came from basic obscurity to being a top 10 pick is what Ianson ultimately could be heading for to a lesser degree. Now you bring in the emergence of Kason Evans, who's been great all year. But in the big moment, Kason Evans, shout out to him, went nuclear against Little Rock, a team that, like Murray State, won't die. 6 innings, 1 run, 12 strikeouts. Got out of a lot of big jams. And yeah, that's a true freshman. Jay Johnson found his next ace, Kason Evans. That kid is a stud, and he's got balls that are very, very large. But there's a lot more pitchers in LSU's rotation and their staff. And that's really what I leaned into coming into the year, Noah, was that they're going to be 8 arms deep. And that is without Gavin Guidry, who hasn't pitched all year and is not going to pitch due to an injury. Their offense was been the big question all year. Like, yeah, they're good, but they're not what they were 2 years ago. They just seem to have these moments where they kind of go into a lull. But they're so talented that they're getting production from different places. And we saw Ethan Fry basically save their season. 4 hits He drove in all four of their first five RBIs to get them back in that game when they got punched in the face early and went down 5-1. You got Bear Jones. Milam had a great weekend. Derek Curiel is still a stud who sets the table really well. Pearson, Luis Hernandez had a monster game, 2 homers. So LSU's offense is going to probably create some issues for this West Virginia pitching who, let's be honest, I mean, Griffin Kern's been great this year, and he's been really hot as of late. So that could ultimately be a tough matchup against a lefty where we saw them have some struggles against Liam Doyle earlier this year, and that could be something to monitor. Jack Carstonis and his ridiculous mustache has had a really good year as well in like this hybrid role where he started 8 games out of 19 appearances. But other than that, I'm not super sold on what else West Virginia is going to be throwing out of the bullpen. They have some arms that have been decent, but it's not to the level where it's overly concerning to me. So the question is, as long as LSU can avoid these lulls, I think they should be able to take care of business in this series. And if we're looking at later in the series after Griffin Kern throws, there's no West Virginia starter that I'm overly nervous about. I mean, David Hagan's gotten some starts under his belt. He's only got 23 innings on the year. He's walked 13, struck out 13 in 23 innings. And then as you go further down the board, it's just a lot of uncertainty. Whereas LSU has the clear edge for the entire weekend in pitching in both starting and bullpen. I think the way West Virginia's offense rolls, where they steal a lot of bases and they apply a lot of pressure, even though they don't hit a lot of home runs, is intriguing. But you know, I got to go with LSU, man. I think the fact is Cade Anderson can not only cancel out Kern in game 1, but surpass him. And that's going to count for a lot because they should have a big edge in game 2 with Anthony Ianson. That's why LSU getting game 1 is so huge, because they'll have an opportunity to lay down the hammer with Anthony Ianson on Sunday's game in game 2. But you can't bet it. You're not going to bet minus 300, 350 for LSU in a game or the series. So this is one where I think maybe you take a look at getting in on LSU at like plus 310 in the futures market to win it all. If you haven't already, like maybe take a nibble or throw LSU if you're throwing a super regional parlay in and you throw them in there.
Crutch asks, Kern should be okay for Saturday after his relief appearance against Kentucky. Well, all year I've said that this guy gives me Derek Clark vibes. And what did Derek Clark do in the regional last year? He goes out there, shoves for 9 innings in game 1, and then he came in relief in the final game to get them the regional victory. Same thing happened with Kern. And if I know anything about the West Virginia staff, they're just going to run out their Bulldog once again. And I think Kern, actually, I think it's a favorable matchup game 1, Johnny. You know, I'm not touching the series, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out in the press conferences and whatever to see if we're able to get a matchup and or, you know, pitcher confirmed for game 1. But I'm looking to target Dub V in game 1. You know, I once again, I'm going to quote the splits here. LSU's offense against right-handed pitching, 313, 936 OPS. Against left-handed pitching, it dips over 40 points in average, over 50 points in OPS, down to 272, 889. And for West Virginia, they are one of the best offenses against left-handed pitching. I've been saying this for 6 weeks now. They're hitting 347, 972 against lefties. I think that West Virginia could be, you know, live in that first game against Anderson. Anderson's either going to be dominant or I don't know another word of dominant, but he's had some starts where, you know, he gets touched up a little bit, doesn't look as sharp. And maybe that's one of those for me here, because I think LSU wins the series. I'm not going to touch the Tigers to bet him game 1, or for the entire series. But I think that West Virginia should be live. And in games 2 and 3, when they're not facing that lefty, Armani Guzman was outstanding in that Clemson regional for the Mountaineers down at the bottom of the order or wherever he was hitting. Because, I mean, this is a kid that they've inserted in the lineup over the last 3 weeks, and he's been incredible for them. So that's been a really good sign for the Mountaineers after they were trying to trying to figure something out after losing, that series to Kansas, getting blown out in the Big 12 tournament. They shake some things up. Guzman's in the lineup, and he was raking. So I think West Virginia is definitely going to make this a series. I think LSU wins it, though. And I'll be looking to try to most likely take some like a player projection over on Underdog Fantasy on Anthony Irons in game 2.
So I agree with you. If you're going to take West Virginia, it's when Griffin Kern goes. Because also the other thing, a la the Derek Clark vibes. Kern's been going deep in the ball games. His last 4 starts on at least 7 innings. So unless he's getting absolutely battered, West Virginia is going to be throwing him out there for at least 6 or 7. So that's an opportunity where Cade Anderson would have to really, bear down and do what he's done for most of the year. I think it's also worth noting, though, because the stats are a little bit tainted considering what conference they play in. Big 12 is a good baseball conference, but it's not the SEC. So as I'm looking at it, against lefties, they've been one of the best teams. But what lefties have they really faced of merit? Bodendorf, against Oklahoma State, but I don't think he really had gotten going yet. That was a weird weekend too because he was thrown off his usual rotation because of the
Kansas State has 3 lefties.
But they're not that good.
They don't have at home. They were money this year.
Yeah, but their lefties aren't really something that we would consider like true quality. Like, they're decent at best.
I understand what you're saying.
Against Ben, the closest lefty they faced outside of Bodendorf, who really didn't get into a groove at that point. Bodendorf was really a big second half guy this year. Was Ben Cleaver in the regional against Kentucky, and Cleaver carved them. 6 innings, 1 earned, 1 walk, 5 Ks. They won that game late. So I think there's a big difference is all I'm saying. And I think the lefty thing is it's nice to have, but the only lefty that you're probably going to face that's been better than Cade Anderson this year is Jamie Arnold and possibly Liam Doyle, like in terms of overall arsenal, I should say. So at the bare minimum, Cade Anderson's been a top 3 lefty this year.
The final super regional on the right-hand side of the bracket is Arkansas, Tennessee. Fayetteville should be on fire this weekend. The Hogs are minus 130 to win this series. The Vols are plus 100. Johnny, I'm interested to see where you're going to go in this one.
So Tennessee was a preseason Omaha team for me. And, my saying, I don't like to jump ship. I like to go down with the ship or ride with it. The only team that I really had started having second thoughts about in the second half of the year on a preseason team was Clemson, where I really started falling out of favor because the wheels started coming off for them. But if we're talking straight betting here, Tennessee in this regional, I don't think it makes sense to take them on a series price because you're not really getting the number that you should be getting when you compare them to the game 1 price. You're getting plus 140 on FanDuel with Liam Doyle.
Well, I don't think it might be Liam Doyle. I think it might be Marcus Phillips.
You think it might? You think they might go back?
Phillips went on
how many pitches
Saturday? Doyle relieved for 2.1 on Monday. So
how many pitches did he throw? Do you know?
My guess is around 40 because there's 2.1 innings. It wasn't too long. I'll find it.
That's a good point. Yeah, find that while we're talking here. But Tennessee's about even money, maybe minus 102, depending on where you're looking. So this is projected to be a close series. I think, in all fairness, Marcus Phillips has been a little bit rough. I mean, you're going to go Zach Root here most likely if you're Arkansas in game 1. But Root has not been a true Friday SEC guy this year for me. Like a true Friday ace. Root has been beatable. He's had a few outstanding performances this year. He really has. But most of the other ones have been pretty meh. I like Tennessee here, man. I understand that they haven't played well the entire second half, and they have issues like infield fielding, and their offense has gotten quiet at bad times. Their bullpen has been something of a mess. But something about this team in June, under Tony V, who's been here before, done that. Tennessee's not playing with the pressure. Arkansas is. Tennessee got their ring. I think Arkansas, while people are saying they might be the most complete team, and I don't think that's dumb in any way. I think that's a very valid point. Something is missing for this Arkansas team with me. And on paper, you'd be like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, they have a great team ERA. Their offense has been maybe the best in the country, top to bottom. That's a fair point. It's just something intangible that when I watch them and watch some of their series in the second half, where like they've struggled to beat a lot of the top teams this year. And granted, it's been like against Tennessee or not Tennessee, like LSU, Texas A&M. Something's missing there. I got to go with the team that I picked to go to Omaha preseason. Now, the question here becomes, how do you bet this? Because say it is Marcus Phillips going game one and you're getting him at plus 140. Do you lay off of that game and then go all in for Liam Doyle in game two?
My handicap we've already seen this. And sure, I tend to like the team and or pitcher to make a little the one that is making adjustments, the one that didn't do very well in the first appearance, usually comes back and does better in the second appearance, in my opinion, at least. But Doyle got bombed like by Arkansas. Like that was not a great start whatsoever. And Arkansas is like the best team against left-handed pitching. I keep pulling up these splits, but I believe this in handicapping. Like Arkansas's lineup, right-handed power heavy. You look at it, Vahiva Aloy, Kahio Aloy, Ryder Helfrich. I mean, those three power hitters, all right-hander, even Cam Kojal, like Arkansas 352 average, 1059 OPS against left-handed pitching. Yeah, that's a big problem for Liam Doyle's not, he had outstanding regional. He faced Miami, Ohio, then was able to come back in and relieve against Wake Forest. But that's a Deeks lineup that struggles with the swing and miss. I haven't really seen that with this Arkansas team. I think that 1 through 9, they are the best lineup in the country. I've said that for a while now. I think that Arkansas is able to get this thing done and go back to the College World Series. And yeah, I mean, the strength of the Tennessee team on the mound has been that starting pitching. And Johnny, you've been worried about the bullpen for a while now. You're going to need some big time performances from like a Brandon Arvidsson again, who's been really heating up lately. You'll need a good outing from like an AJ Russell in his 3 innings that he'll give you, because Marcus Phillips didn't have the greatest start against Arkansas too. Only went 4.1 innings. So I think that's what you're seeing in that game one price, is that Arkansas has already kind of seen these starting pitcher offerings that Tennessee's going to give them, and they've done well against it. So
Arkansas on paper has been the better team this year. It's not really close, but this is June. It's different. It's a different environment. Every single year that Arkansas has failed, and failed very early, the pressure is mounting. They walked through their own region. They fought their demons, but I mean, they beat Creighton and North Dakota State. They don't have to face Kansas. I mean, Kansas maybe they blow Kansas out, but like they had a relatively easy path the way it shook out for them. And I get worried about this time of the year for them. The lights are bright, and listen, maybe they're ready to handle it, because this is arguably the best roster they've had in a long time. I gotta side with the team that I picked preseason. And listen, you're right. A lot of the numbers throughout the year support Arkansas, and I completely understand where you're going with this one. It's just this time around, I just think that the Vols are going to kick it up a notch. And this isn't like a play where I'm going with, you know what, I'm going to go with the box scores. I'm going to go with what's on the stat sheet, because you got to throw that stuff out a lot of times at this point in the year. So I don't think you going with Arkansas is dumb by any stretch of the imagination, but I got to go with Tennessee, man. I got to go with Tony V getting it done again for school.
Yeah, the way that I'm thinking about this, I'm going to pull the trigger on Arkansas minus 130 on the series price, and then I'm not going to bet it game by game with the Hogs, because you look at that game one price, they're minus 175. I'm not sure who the book currently has, baked in for Tennessee to start there, but I would kind of have that same thought process of game 2, game 3, no matter who the pitchers are, because I think that Gage Wood, Gabe Cackle combo looked incredible this weekend. And then whoever Arkansas is going to throw, they're not going to throw Aiden Jimenez again. There's no way it happens. It'll probably be Beidel Shees, but I'm pretty confident in Arkansas being able to get it done against Tennessee, who I've thought has really not considered or cemented in a game 3 starter either. So I like Arkansas minus 130 just to win the series. And then I'm not going to bet the Hogs in a game this weekend, but I will be here Friday games, Saturday games, Sunday games, and even the Monday games doing daily picks episodes on the College Baseball Experience. That is supported by Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. They are giving away the ultimate fantasy football experience for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas and be treated like VIPs during the stay. You will get a limo ride from the airport, a $5,000 tab for stadium swim, and a hotel stay for you and your 11 league mates. You can always get 15% off at all Circa properties over in Las Vegas with the promo code SGP15. Enter the Ultimate Fantasy Football Contest for free at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/circa. That is sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CIRCA. And you've heard us over at SGPN talk about rhythm before, and now they've just dropped a game-changing feature called Power Trends. These are AI-detected patterns where Rhythm's model has consistently won and has a high ROI. Think of like a strikeout prop that wins at 59% of the time when the line and win probability hit at a certain range. Power Trends are updated daily and exclusive to Rhythm. There are no touts, no noise, just clean, data-backed bets. Download the Rhythm app, check out Power Trends, and start betting smarter, because you know that we will be. Get your 7-day free trial today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And we're also brought to you by mybookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet on every sport, including the NBA Finals. For the true degens, the MyBookie money bag is there for you, and MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of different locations. It's easy to deposit, and you can get lightning fast payouts using crypto. Head over to mybookie.ag with the promo code TCESGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. That is mybookie.ag, promo code TCESGPN. And we are back here on the College Baseball Experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside Johnny Venezia, and he's got his own show over there, Breaking Bet. Check it out. He's going to be doing a pre-super regional podcast as well. Johnny, we're going to jump over to the left side of the bracket. We did backwards today just to have a little bit of fun. Top left, Louisville, Miami, who coming into the day was kind of the front runner of where I may end up for regionals. We'll see what happens. But the Cardinals are minus 160 to win this series. The Hurricanes are plus 130. Not sure we assumed either one of these teams would be here in this spot. But coming into the regional weekend, Dan McDonnell, head coach of Louisville, said that his pitching staff was the healthiest it's been since opening weekend. And man, did I see it in opening weekend. And I thought that Louisville was a solid team. They go 2-1. They beat Texas. And then just the train went off the tracks, specifically with the health. But that opening weekend, when they beat Texas, Patrick Forbes was unbelievable, strikes out double-digit batters in that Longhorns lineup. This weekend against ETSU, Patrick Forbes completely held down the Bucks. ETSU goes 2 in barbecue. And Louisville able to run through the Nashville Regional. Tucker Biven goes out there and gives them a good start against Vanderbilt. And then Ethan Eberle keeps down a Wright State lineup that, honestly hadn't been able to hit solid left-handed pitching for a lot of the year. They've got like 6 lefties in that lineup. So Eberle was a perfect matchup for them. And Louisville all of a sudden is hosting a super regional against Miami, Florida, who had really good starting pitching over the weekend with AJ Siskar and Griffin Hughes. Like, all of a sudden, both of these teams have great pitching coming into the weekend. The momentum, the trends are here for both of these staffs. Johnny, who do you think has the advantage this weekend in the Hurricanes and Cardinals series?
I still can't wrap my head around that one of these teams is going to go to Omaha. I mean, Louisville was a dumpster fire for most of the year because they were facing so many pitching injuries. Miami barely got in. Like, Miami really didn't have a great regular season. They had like a 3-week stretch where they got hot. So the fact that they got in over UVA is something that we talked about when the selection show came out. So I still can't wrap my head around that one of these teams.
I think Brian O'Connor's okay with that.
It's just, yeah, well, it's insane. It really is. But I mean, listen, here's the thing. Miami, they played in a regional that was really, really, let's say, up for grabs, because Louisville did, I guess, technically too. But Miami's pitching was really good this weekend. Overall, Brian Walters has really come in with just this aura like his big brother had. Like, right? Like, Brian Walters just not only physically looks like his brother, but he's pitched like him too, lately.
Since they moved him into
the thing is, though,
I agree.
Yeah, that was the right move. But I think ultimately it's going to be Louisville. I hate to say it. I hate to say either one of these teams is winning. It's really frustrating. But I think it's going to be Louisville, because if Patrick Forbes pitches the way he did, that's a tough one to beat, because you have a really good opportunity to win a start that he's throwing where, like you said, this is a first-round talent based on just stuff. And when he's humming, he's a tough guy to get off his rhythm. But also, Louisville's lineup is a lot deeper than Miami. I think, really the chance Miami's going to have is if Danny Cuvée, who is the best player on the field, in my opinion, in this series, the reincarnation of Yohandy Morales, a kid who's going to be potentially a top 5 pick next year, goes nuclear. That's what has to happen. Like, Miami's pitching has to be pretty much what it was last weekend, and Cuvé's just got to go absolutely nuts for Miami to win, which is possible. But considering the depth that Louisville has at a lot of different positions, where they're not having to rely on just one guy, and they have a lot of talent in their staff, and now, Dan McDonald saying this is the healthiest they've been all year, that's a tough one to beat. And that's not even including the fact that they're going to be hosting this super regional. I think Louisville's going to go back to the dance, man. It's nuts to think about, but I think the Cardinals got the edge here, and the price isn't too bad.
Yeah, when you think of like recent Louisville teams, I think they've definitely had some better ones on paper, but I'm with you, and I feel pretty strongly about Louisville this weekend. They're 8-0 in home series this season. They were 5-0 in home series in the ACC. They were 1-4 in road series in the ACC this year. And yeah, when you look at the two offenses on paper, like Miami's is not even really close to Louisville's performance. They did have really good games over the weekend against teams that I would consider have strong pitching staffs outside of Columbia. Where I'm really – so how I'm attacking this is -160 on Louisville I don't think is 1,000% where I want to be. I'm looking to probably take them game by game, because if you look at game 2, it's most likely going to be Bivin versus Hughes, and Miami's going to be a closer to 50-50 coin flip in that matchup. So it doesn't make sense to take the -160 here. For me, I'd rather like either bet Louisville or put them in a parlay in game 1 on Friday, and then game 2 bet them straight, if that's the way I'm thinking. And even game 3 with Eberle on the mound up against the Tate Darius, who got rocked by Southern Miss, or Reese Lumpkin, who hasn't been tremendous this season. But that's how I'm currently thinking of playing this, because Louisville entered last weekend with a team ERA of like 5.72 or something like that. They gave up 5 total runs in 3 games over the weekend. This pitching staff is noticeably improved. And yeah, I'm going to go Louisville. Anything else you want to include before we move on here?
What a bag fumble by Vanderbilt. What a bag fumble. I can't believe I can't believe that. They had one of the easiest draws in the regional. They should have beat Louisville, and they should have beat Wright State again, and they'd be hosting Miami, where they would have had a pretty big edge, in my opinion, considering what their pitching has looked like this year. What a shame. What a goddamn shame.
In the Corvallis Super Regional, it's a heads up, -115 both ways flip between Oregon State, the home team for game 1 and game 3, and Florida State, the road team, game 1, game 3, and the home team, game 2 here. There is no more important player, no more important X factor this weekend than one Trent Caraway this weekend. So the biggest, when I was going through and pulling a lot of, splits from a database, Oregon State against left-handed pitching as a team this year, only hitting 254, 832, which is one of the worst splits in the remaining 16 teams alive. Against right-handed pitching, they're really good, 309, 960. Johnny, Florida State has 3 left-handed starting pitchers. So you need Ivar Arquette to do Ivar Arquette things. Last weekend, I don't know if this was a meme or not, but Arquette may have hit his first Goss Stadium home run all year. You're going to need him to play like that top 10 first-round pick. And then also Trent Caraway, who had been in the bottom of the lineup for a lot of the year. He had a home run in every single game that they played, all 5 games. Yeah. He is swinging a hot stick, and you hope that he's going to continue to swing a hot stick here against a lot of the left-handed pitching that Florida State's going to throw for 21 innings of these 3 games here. Johnny, your thoughts as I think Florida State's got a little bit of a matchup advantage over the Beavers, and that was my pick coming into the tournament. I have Florida State as a semifinalist in the bracket, losing to North Carolina and Omaha in the semis there. Your thoughts?
Life's a cruel bitch is my thought. I had both of these teams I had sizable bets on last year, preseason, to win it all, and couldn't be had. But one of them's going to Omaha, so I'm sort of depressed how this ended up matching up where one of them was going to have to go. But this one's probably the most even series, I would say, not from a price standpoint, from like a matchup standpoint. Florida State, it's tough not to take them because they have the starting pitching advantage. They have the best pitcher in the country in Jamie Arnold. They have an offense that really has some dudes and has some guys that have really grown up before our eyes. Like Miles Bailey, the freshman, who's going to be a huge draft pick in a couple of years, hasn't been a regular freshman. Like he's been a dude, and this kid's got a lot of power. Alex Lodis basically came out of nowhere after being maybe average at best offensively for the Noles last season, and in my opinion should probably win the Golden Spikes based off the 3 finalists that we have. And they have a bunch of other guys. I mean, Gage Harrelson's been really good at the top of their lineup. Max Williams he's been awesome this year. Chase Williams is a guy that's kind of emerged, this season as somebody that they can rely on. It's been a year for Florida State that I don't think their team is anywhere near as good as they were last year. So my feeling was like Florida State, their year was last year to win it all. But in this particular matchup, what concerns me is a thing that concerned me coming into this year, which is why I didn't bet Florida State in any futures. Their bullpen is a disaster. Their bullpen is so fucking bad. It's insane. And they got away with it because, the matchups that they played last weekend. I mean, Mississippi State got in, and on paper, Mississippi State's offense had a pretty solid year. I mean, it was definitely a huge improvement from 2024, but I wouldn't really say Mississippi State is like one of these banger offenses, despite what it might say on paper. The bullpen is enough of a neutralizer in favor of Oregon State. That's why I might lean the Beavers. So Oregon State, the issue I have with them, Noah, is the thing I've talked about all year, where I wasn't really a huge fan, because they rely so heavily on about 5 or 6 players to really carry the whole team. Gavin Turley, Ava Arquette have been amazing this year offensively. They've been off the charts good, and they've been really heating up down the stretch as well. Pitching-wise, their potential, if they pitch closer to their ceilings, can match what Florida State does. Dax Whitney is maybe the most talented freshman we have in the game. He's going to be a guy to circle his name in a couple of years for the draft. Their bullpen has some pretty good arms too. And I think it all comes down to, can Oregon State play closer to their ceiling? Because I think their bullpen is an advantage over Florida State. And like you said, the X factor of the whole series is Trent Caraway. If he carries over what he did in the regionals, now you have Arquette, Turley, and Caraway. And you have a guy like Wilson Weber, or you have Easton Talk coming up big, or you have Jacob Krieg hitting a couple of home runs. That's really where it shifts in favor of the home team. Out in Corvallis, where it's a tough place to play. I lean Oregon State here as a home dog because the bullpen. So, I mean, it really is a coin flip, but I think the Beavers, who, by the way, are going to be looking to get back in Omaha for the first time in a quite
first
some
time
time
in
here.
Canham's tenure.
Yeah. It's a close call for me because I think depth-wise, Florida State's been proving to be more useful. But I think the Oregon State bullpen is going to be the difference here. But here's how I'm attacking it. Jamie Arnold, game 1. Curious to see what that price is going to be, because it's probably going to be Eric Segura. And that's where I have a tough time, because I think if Segura ends up going, I don't know how effective he can be. And that's the concern.
We probably won't find out until tomorrow, which is media day. But game 1 right now is minus 115 both ways.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I wonder who they're coming out with. So Arnold, because of the matchup with him, and is a guy I always want to bet. Instead of taking full game because I want to avoid the bullpen, one thing that we got last week that I'm excited about on DraftKings is first X innings market. So you can get first fives. So I think the way to go for me in game 1, assuming it is Jamie Arnold, is you bet Florida State first 5 with Arnold and don't rely on that bullpen to close the whole thing out for you. I would say I'd play that up to minus 160, maybe minus 175, maybe. Because that's going to be a big advantage for FSU. But I think right now I need to do a little bit more soul searching on this one. But I think right now the first look for me is the Beavers. Just kind of talking myself into the fact that I think the bullpen is a big advantage for them. And I think Oregon State can play close enough to the point where FSU's starting pitchers get knocked out. And I got news for you. Like, Wes Mendez is talented, but he's really had some struggles this year. So I think, as long as they can split games 1 and 2, and they have Kleinschmidt going against Mendez game 3, I think Kleinschmidt's going to be an advantage over Wes Mendez in the final game.
Yeah, I'm curious of how Oregon State's going to trot out the starting pitchers. One, because if it's like a Hutchinson game 1, or I don't know, a Keljo game 1, because are you going to trot out Segura again? He relieved that Monday game. We'll see. They could easily go Segura, but I think it actually might go Whitney, Kleinschmidt, game 1, game 2. That would be how I would structure this, because you don't want to lose 2 games in a best of 3 and not throw Kleinschmidt, who's kind of been the most steady arm you've had the entire year. Whitney's the most talented, the highest ceiling arm, and I think Kleinschmidt's been the highest floor, most consistent. But you've got to get Florida State's starting rotation out of their rhythm, because this weekend in their regional, they combined to throw 18 innings, the 3 starters. Or if that happens against Oregon State's not winning this series. That Florida State bullpen was set up perfectly with just short short appetites, or however you want to say it, because they only had to throw 9 innings the entire regional. They were 9 scoreless innings, 12 strikeouts, just 3 walks, just 5 hits allowed. Florida State's entire hole, like the big weakness of this team has been the bullpen, but it was not tested this weekend in the regional because of how good that starting rotation is. And I think with that big matchup advantage in this series, I'm looking at Florida State to win it. I really don't know if the bullpen is going to be tested here either. And then when you get into Omaha with a day rest in between all of your games, you're going to be able to try it out. Charles and Abraham nonstop for Florida State. And I like the way that goes.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's just because we're playing a lot of what ifs. Like if FSU's pitching can pretty much, if the rotation can pretty much go 6-7, that's a tough one for Oregon State. I mean, like Dax Whitney's potential, he can match Jamie Arnold. Like this is the kind of guy that can definitely go toe to toe. Like I would personally like going with Whitney game 1 because he is your most talented arm, and if he's on, I mean he's going to match what Jamie Arnold does. And then if say that game is tied like 3-3, and both pitchers are out, and it's the 7th or 8th inning, I mean that swings heavily in favor of Oregon State. So really, it's going to be up to the Beavers starting pitching just to match what Florida State starting pitching does. Because the longer that game goes, where Florida State has to use their bullpen, could be the deciding factor.
This is a great toss-up. It's a really good series, and Oregon State, in order to, they have to score runs early. That way, they can get Florida State in the mud. Because if they do so, that is Oregon State's advantage. The deeper that these games go, the more arms that Florida State has to use. Oregon State's got the advantage when it comes to depth on the mound. It's a very good tactical series between Canham and Leak Jarrett. I cannot wait. Cannot wait for that one. How about North Carolina and Arizona, Johnny? My two biggest preseason positions to win the College World Series are going to go up against each other this weekend, which is quite disappointing. But I didn't expect Arizona to be in this spot. So I'm somewhat happy. And I was trying to shoot down there for the double dip of Durham and Chapel Hill, but they're playing at the same damn time on Saturday. So, yeah, that's really disappointed. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that anymore. North Carolina is minus 330 to win the regional, and Arizona is plus 250. Johnny, I'm interested to see how you feel about Arizona. I feel like you've had a better read on the Wildcats than me down the stretch here. I didn't see them winning that regional. I had Oregon, but they didn't even have to play Oregon. And then you had Arizona winning the Big 12 tournament, and they were able to pull that off. So I'll let you bat lead off here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we both had North Carolina going deep this year. That was, again, another preseason Omaha 8 team. I loved what Scott Forbes had, and considering what they lost last year, like not just talent, but like superstars. Vance Honeycutt, Dalton Pence out of the bullpen was huge. Casey Cook, Parks Harbor. I was making appearances though, like on VSiN and other shows last year, saying North Carolina, they're good this year. They're going to be even better next year. That's what I was always saying. Well, I mean, I think they're different. I think they're two different teams than they were last year because they didn't have that starting pitching depth to the degree that they do this year. Like DeCara was great, but there was really a lot of like question marks after him where they were worried about, is who's going to come out here and dot, because they didn't have Jake Knapp last year. He's recovering from TJ. But in any case, UNC, I don't want to use the term team of destiny for UNC, but they really, and we talked about this coming into the tournament when the draw came out, like they had the favorable draw. Like this was a team that had the much easier side to go on the left side here, and they have 3 studs in the rotation, and that's not just a luxury. That's an advantage. They have a good bullpen. Like Walker McDuffie's really turned into a stud for them, a guy that is super reliable. I think here the big thing for Arizona is they're not facing a legitimate lefty. Like there's no legitimate lefty starter. There's not really a legitimate lefty reliever like Dalton Pence was last year for the Tar Heels. I'll say this though. U of A, I get worried about their offensive depth. I mean, Mason White is a freak.
The top of the order makes that lineup so lopsided.
Exactly. Exactly. So Mason White was a guy picked on our fantasy team preseason. I loved White. I think I had White as a first-round grade just based on talent. Like the swing and miss is the thing that's holding him back. Mason White can carry a team when he's on. He did it in the Big 12 tournament. He had a 3-homer game. I think he had a 3-homer game last weekend too. Aaron Walton had a 3-homer game. Well, like when was the last time a team had 2 different guys hit 3 home runs in the same regional weekend?
Walton's been so huge in between Summerhill and Mason White. That way they can't pitch around those two. It has been huge.
Yeah, and you have Summerhill. Like Summerhill hasn't even been their second best player, in the last couple weeks here. So Arizona, why they're dangerous is because when the top of their order is doing what they've been doing, I mean, they don't need the next 6 guys. And their pitching's been really good, man. Owen Kramkowski has really developed nicely into that Friday night role. Smith Bailey, we know, is still a stud, bookending that Sunday role. You and I both feel Bailey's going to be a first rounder in a couple of years. And their bullpen's been pretty good, man. They have a closer by the name of Tony Pluta that's been amazing. He's been money in the late situations. So Arizona absolutely has a puncher's chance here. Like if their nucleus shows out the way they've been, they're more than live. I can't go against a team that I picked preseason in North Carolina. I also can't go against a team that's got the pitching advantage in both the rotation and the bullpen, overall. And they have a pretty good 4th starter in Ryan Lynch, who can be used in a couple different ways. Like he's not going to get a start this weekend, so I'd be curious to see how they deploy him. The lineup is streaky for UNC. The streak so far has been
down the final month. Yeah, it's been great.
Exactly. Like when it was bad for UNC, it was really bad. They couldn't buy a fucking run to save their lives. But now, like they've been hitting everybody. They got after maybe the best arm in 2025 season, Kyson Witherspoon. They tagged him. They tagged him for 6 runs in the first
I do want to
inning.
make this clear, though. Like, offensively, North Carolina has been better than Arizona throughout the entire year. And if you're going to damper, like, West Virginia's numbers, Arizona played in the same league. So that's something to note here, too.
Yeah, but I'm going to go North Carolina here. I think this does have the potential to get to 3 games. But it's challenging because how are you going to bet UNC? You're not going to take a minus 370 in game 1, which is probably the same ballpark you're going to be having to take them the entire weekend. And in terms of like an actual series, they're north of minus 300. Like there's no way to bet it. And honestly, like I think Arizona's live enough to where like I'm not putting it in a parlay. So for me, the best way to kind of get some action on North Carolina now, you could get them in the plus 650 range to win it all, which I think is honestly reasonable because if they win, right? If they win this series, they're going to face the winner of Louisville or Miami in the first game. And then I believe they would have to face, who would they face? Would they face the winner of FSU, Oregon State?
North Carolina? North Carolina's first game, they would play the winner of Auburn Coastal. And if they win or lose, they would play the winner or loser of Louisville, Miami, and Oregon State, Florida State.
Okay. I mean, that's a little bit tougher because I think facing Louisville or Miami game 1 is a little bit easier. But nevertheless, dude, I think it shapes up well for them. I think they have more pitching depth than any team, front to back. They have more pitching depth than any team on their side of the bracket. So plus 650 is a fair number at the moment for me. I think, honestly, UNC should be closer to a 5-1 right now. So
yeah, you're talking about winning the national championship. Yep.
Yes. I think right now that's the best way to get in on UNC because you can't take them this weekend. And if they win this weekend, that number is going to shrink even more. So if you haven't bet UNC to win it all, now would be the time. Yeah,
it's a tough way to try to find a spot this weekend for North Carolina, Arizona. Dexter Pope talking about under 10.5 in game 1. Here's the issue. Owen Kramkowski has been more of a pitch to contact arm for Arizona this season. Opponents are hitting 289 against him. And this year against right-handed pitching, North Carolina has been much better. Their whole offensively has been against lefties. A lot of those really good hitters in that lineup are left-handed swingers. Tar Heels are batting just 254, 800 OPS, one of the worst splits in the remaining 16 teams left. But against right-handed pitching, 308, 913 OPS there. So big difference. And Owen Kramkowski, I'm not quite sure that he's going to be able to go smoothly in this one. And I'm curious of what Arizona also does with their pitching, because Smith Bailey has been unbelievable down the stretch. And that's an arm that you need to throw in a super regional. You can't go home in 2 games and not have thrown your young star who's going to be an ace in the next year or two. You have to throw Smith Bailey at some point in this thing. I would be looking at him to start game 2 and then Raul Grayzar to throw game 3. But I'm very much with Johnny here. Like, it takes 2 to tango. North Carolina is probably going to be a parlay partner for me the entire weekend in these games if I like the spot. So that's how I'm going to attack this weekend, because I think Arizona's lineup is dangerous enough to where I don't want to play the series price at all. And I'll need to pick my spots carefully there. The final super regional series that we have to talk about is the Auburn Super, where the Tigers are hosting. They're minus 145 to win this series against Coastal Carolina, who's plus 115. Auburn went through their regional like a chainsaw through hot butter, if you exclude the first 3 innings against Central Connecticut State, where Cam Tilley pissed down his leg. But outside of that, everything was going smoothly for Auburn. Freshmen were performing in the lineup and on the mound. Andreas Alvarez threw that 3rd game against NC State and looked great. Christian Chatterton has finished the year very strong. He didn't throw in the regional starting a game, but I think that if he's used in a super, he'd be a good option for game 1 if they don't want to move Dutton up to Friday. And Dutton went really well against Stetson. Coastal Carolina's got just as good, maybe an even better pitching staff. So this is more of a minus 115 series to me than Florida State, Oregon State was, because Auburn's lineup 100% has the advantage over Coastal, but I think Coastal, their arms make this thing really interesting. Johnny, your thoughts on the regional, super regional?
Yeah, let's give Auburn a lot of credit, man. Their pitching really performed last weekend. That was the big question mark after Samuel Dutton. They were able to handle NC State. They were able to handle Stetson. And that's the kind of thing that they need to have happen for them to win this. Here's where it's interesting, because Coastal to me is the Sun Belt version of Auburn. Both teams perform noticeably better at home than they do on the road. Auburn's got a significant advantage on the offensive side, but Coastal's got a significant pitching advantage. This is another team this is one of the few teams this year that has 3 legitimate weekend arms. I mean, Jacob Morrison, first year off Tommy John, has been amazing. Riley Eichhoff's had a really nice rebound year, and Cam Fluke has been great as well. And they've got several really good high leverage bullpen arms. But the offense isn't anything close to what it was 2 years ago when they were top 10 in every major category, but it's still been pretty good. So it's really like, what do you trust more? Do you trust the pitching of Coastal more, who hasn't really beaten anybody noteworthy, or do you trust Auburn's offense more, that's been doing it against the best of the best in the SEC? This is a tough one for me. I think this is up there with that Florida State, Oregon State, where it's really a coin flip. I think the reason why I'd probably go Coastal Carolina here with a slight edge, when I'm talking about slight, I think Coastal's 55% to Auburn 45%, is because I still would need to see Auburn's pitching after Samuel Dutton do it in a series like this. Sure, it was good this past weekend, but let's see let's see what they do against Coastal Carolina. I think we're going to be able to see the Chanticleer's pitching staff neutralize Auburn's offense enough. And I think the creative way that Coastal can score, where they're really good on the bases, they have some boppers in their lineup. They have an elite hitter in Caden Bodine. I think they have a slight edge here, man. I mean, because Samuel Dutton is probably an advantage over anybody they throw, but I think this one goes 3 games. And you're going to have a significant pitching advantage on the days Dutton's not throwing if you're Coastal Carolina. I think if Coastal can score 6 runs in a game, that's going to be enough for them to get the win with the pitching they have and the bullpen depth. And you're getting plus money. I think the Chanticleers are definitely worth the look in this price spot.
I'm going Auburn. I don't know why I was about to say Coastal. I have Auburn winning this series. They are 8-0 in home series this season. Johnny, I think you kind of laid it out. A lot of the arguments that I have for Auburn winning this Super Regional. The offense has been extremely consistent the entire year, no matter the talent of pitching that they've faced. In the SEC, they had the number 1 strength of schedule. And the strength of the team was still that they were able to keep putting up runs. Coastal Carolina's offense is a little bit questionable outside of the Palace. And that's kind of been the big thing for Coastal this year is, it's been a little uncharacteristic of the Chanticleers to really have to rely on the pitching staff. We haven't seen that out of Coastal Carolina for years. And I think when you enter the series like this, Auburn's seen these quality arms. I don't think that's going to affect the Tigers whatsoever. And I think they get the job done at Plainsman Park here this weekend. I look at this series and I think it should be closer to -115. I'm not going to bet Auburn to win the series in this future market. I am going to pick my spots though. Like, I think that going up against an Eichhoff and against a Fluky, who aren't going to blow away this lineup with stuff. Morrison's a different look. You can't simulate 6-7 on the bump, but you can simulate the low 90s with stuff. You can. I think Auburn's going to be able to pick their spots, or I'm going to be able to pick my spots on Auburn in this lineup. Getting Eric Guevara healthy is going to be a question and also a need for Auburn. But when you have all this right-handed pitching talent that Coastal has, and you're going up against Ike Irish and Cooper McMurray in this lineup, that's tough, man. That's a tough matchup. I'm going to go Auburn to win the series.
I don't think it's a bad look. I mean, this is a really tough series. Like, I don't want to bet against Auburn. I don't, but I just. And, Coastal burned me earlier in the year betting on them on the road. But, they've really developed nicely under Kevin Schnall in his first year. Like, I absolutely think Auburn has enough juice. I think if they win this weekend, I mean, they're a threat in Omaha for sure. I mean, there was a time you were getting 85-1 on Auburn to win it all earlier this year. And shout out to our boy Crutch, friend of the show. Preseason, I was asking Crutch like what he thought. He's like, dude, I really like Auburn this year. I think they can not only make the College World Series, I think they could have a legitimate shot to win. And listen, that's valid, man. That really is, because this is a tough series to handicap. I understand your point of view completely. Like I said, it's a coin flip for me. I'm only going with Coastal. Like I said, I just think the pitching, it's not just in the starting rotation, It's in the pen. And if Auburn's bullpen, has these spells like they've had throughout the year, it's hard for them. It's hard for me to see them winning. Like, they would have to slug a lot of runs across the board to win this game, to win this series, which, yes, it's possible. But, Coastal Carolina's pitching, like I said, front to back, it's been really good overall this year. So, that's really where the advantage comes in for me. I think their offense is going to do enough, because typically, like, how it is, typically the teams that make the runs are able to pitch. Like, you need to be able to obviously score runs, but very rarely do you get a team that makes the run that really can't pitch. It doesn't happen very often. That's ultimately why I think Coastal Carolina's got the small advantage here.
I think Myers needs to stay in the bullpen to answer feels bad, man. I think you're looking at Sam Dutton or Christian Chatterton starting game 1, game 2 in any order. And then it would be like an Alvarez in game 3 or Cade Fisher, who's also been in the bullpen recently. I don't know if you can trust Cam Tilley to go out there. If he wasn't able to throw consistently against Central Connecticut State, I don't think he's going to give you solid innings against Coastal. But that's going to
do me a favor. Well, hold on real quick. Do me a favor. Pull up Colton Mack's comment. It's a pretty valid point as well. So Samuel Dutton's been the guy for Auburn all year. Colton Mack.
Yeah, he pitched great against Stetson last weekend.
But I mean, if you look at what Dutton's did, like, you can't always go by box score.
No, I watched the game. I was locked in.
No, I'm not saying you didn't watch the game. I'm saying like you in general. Like Dutton, this is Dutton his last 3 starts. Against Stetson, 6 2/3, 5 earned. The week before against Ole Miss, 3 innings, 7 earned. The week before against South Carolina, 4 innings, 5 earned. So really the last 3 weeks for Dutton have been a little off kilter from what we've seen throughout the entire year. So the problem now becomes, right? Let's say this. Say Dutton goes out there and gives up 4 runs in 4 innings and they chase him early. You know, that's going to change the series drastically, because if you lose a Samuel Dutton start, your ace, the guy that's been your engine all year in this pitching staff, that's a tough hole to climb out of.
I think he pitched pretty dang well last weekend against Stetson, got tagged in that final inning. Auburn needed him to go as far as he could. And that's kind of been the way the entire season. And sure, he could be leaking oil down the stretch because it's been that way the entire year. But in a series, like a 3-game set, you can pull the trigger a little bit early on removing Dutton from a game, because you don't have to fear playing 5 games in a weekend with what I think is still a shallow staff. But that's going to wrap up our show, dude. We went through all 8 super regionals. Those are the series picks we have. I'll be back, and the invite is extended once again to Johnny. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, daily picks episodes here on the College Baseball Experience. We'll be analyzing bullpen usage, and there's always something that happens that throws off our typical projection of weekend rotations and super regionals. So press conferences Thursday and Friday should ultimately answer some questions about who we think and where we think some of these starting pitchers will throw. And yeah, that's the purpose of the daily episodes. And also on some of these that we didn't fire on the series prices, there will be game to game and other markets as well. Like Johnny was mentioned, first fives. We'll be giving out some angles of that on the shows. But the 2 that I'm going to exit here with pieces of Murray State plus 290 to win the series, and Arkansas minus 130 to win the series. Johnny, the stage is yours. Promote anything that you want that you're going to be doing throughout the weekend, whether it's RotoWire, Breaking Bet, and also where the people can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at _JohnnyBTV. As always, right in my column on RotoWire, going to have the breakdown of the super regionals this weekend. So we're going to be able to see, a little bit more in detail, at least on the written word, via written word, what to expect for the super regionals. And of course, my podcast, Breaking Bet. I'm going to be doing a show tomorrow night with my guy and John Bowman, and I will be seeing you back. If are we doing a show?
Yeah, we're doing a show tomorrow for Friday. So 4 games Friday, 8 Saturday, TBA, or to be determined on Sunday and Monday. But this has been the College Baseball Experience. Thank you all for tuning in. We had over 50 of you guys watching live on YouTube. Very much appreciate it. Have a great night. This has been the College